Hey guys, I wanted to give you a downward dog tutorial part 2. So based on Megan's question, it got me thinking there's probably a few more things that I could share with respect to downward dog alignment, as well as alleviate maybe some of the wrist pain and what's going on. So hopefully, Megan, I can answer your question as well about that certain modification, why we do it. But the first question you might have is, well, how far do you separate your hands and your feet in the downward dog? So start by sitting on your heels with your knees close together, and then extend long as if you're coming into your child's pose. So separate or walk your fingertips forward, and then place the palm on the mat. And then if you need to, walk your hands in or out such that your hands are about shoulder width distance apart. And then keeping your palms on the mat, you can just lift your hips and slowly tuck the toes and come into your downward dog. So right here is a good distance between your feet and your hands for your downward dog. All right, so if you're ever wondering like what's too far in or too far out, you can always start on your child's pose and move into this. Now granted, when we're flowing, you're not always going to be coming from your child's pose, but you'll start to get that awareness the more you try it out, the more you practice. And so when we're in our downward dog, the other thing is making sure that you're evening out the weight in the hands and the feet. So you don't necessarily have to get the heels all the way down, but just kind of feel that difference while you shift some weight forward and shift some weight back in the hands and the feet. You want to do your best to even out the weight so you're not dumping weight into your wrists, into your hands. All right, and then from here, why don't we just come into a tabletop so I can talk a little bit more about the hand placement. So same things as before, nothing changes, spreading your fingers wide. One thing that I didn't mention is your wrist crease. So look down at your wrist crease. It should be about parallel to the top of the mat. So take a look there. Again, biceps rotating in. That's going to help take a little pressure off of the wrists. And then special attention to the thumb and the middle finger. So those are some of the, all 10 fingers tips are pressing into the mat, but a lot of times the thumb and the middle finger want to lift. So if you want to put a little bit more pressure point in there. And then the other thing that wasn't mentioned in part 1 was a little bit more pressure on the upper part of the palm or just below the knuckles. So if you put a little bit more pressure there, when I talked about suction cupping the hands, really what I'm thinking is you're going to start from the knuckles all the way through the fingertips, pressing into the mat and lengthening long. So you're pressing and lengthening the knuckle through the fingertip. And then you'll create a little space just in the palm part of your hand. All right, so try that. And then to answer your question, Megan, what I think is happening, so I talked to Rachel, who I was saying is the yoga alignment guru, teacher of mine. We just added her to the group, so I think you guys will also benefit from some of her input. But she actually does this as well, this folding of the fingertips under. And she says because she's got palm and ligament mobility issues. So she does that more because of lack of mobility. When she tries to spread her fingers wide, she has trouble doing that. So Rachel, you can correct me or kind of clarify here. And so I maybe think about, Megan, a question for you is your issue really wrist pain or is it lack of mobility, and are you able to spread your palms and fingers wide? So try that starting there. The other thing that I sort of mentioned in the first one was maybe using a block or a prop to help lift your wrist. They have this really cool wedge that you can use to place under your palms. What I'm demonstrating right here is I've rolled the mat and I have my palms on the mat for a little cushion, as well as it helps elevate the wrist here. So Megan, what I'm thinking might be happening with you is the folding of the fingers. It's actually allowing you to press a little bit more weight into below the knuckle. And then when you move into the downward dog, you're not putting as much weight in the wrist because it's actually being more on those fingertips and just below the knuckles. I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, but I think to continue to strengthen your downward dog, maybe using a prop might be another option for you. And I think that is it. I will come at you with a wrist stretch kind of mobility stuff we can do if you're still having some wrist issues. Keep the questions coming. Thank you guys.